I don't care about the YouTube algorithm, I just want to make the type of video I wish I had watched a few years ago after I was done with my newbie gains. This information would have spared me so many years of unproductive work in the gym. By the end of this video, you will no longer think like a beginner and you will unleash your full potential once and for all. Yo, what's a crack, my happy face pullers, your personal trainer TiToX, changing people's lives for the better through strength and fitness. I'm fully aware that the title of this video is a little bit clickbaity and you might be thinking that I'm over-promising here, but you have to hear me out on this one. My hope is that today's episode will be a paradigm shift for many noobs who aspire to get bigger and stronger through resistance training. I will definitely ruffle some feathers, but I wish I had come across this message back in the days when I was goofing around in the gym. Alright, whenever I check out comments in other fitness channels, I notice a common theme. A big YouTuber with a massive following uploads a workout, be it full body, upper, lower, push-pull leg, doesn't really matter. And immediately after, people be typing things like, "Oh great, I had to train X body part today and you literally posted this workout, perfect timing." Or, "Yeah, this is exactly what I needed." Or, "Could you make a similar video for bigger," you fill the blank. It's okay to have someone to look up to. Unfortunately, this type of mentality will prevent you from making substantial progress over the long run. The reality is that copying a random workout from your favorite YouTuber is a really poor strategy to gain muscle and get stronger for 95+% of you guys. This small group of genetic freaks might get away with suboptimal training. Their genetics to build muscle are freakishly amazing. From a statistics point of view, however, this isn't you most likely. The sooner you come to terms with it, the better off you'll be.
Telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
If your training is somehow affected or changed by other people's content, that means that you aren't training. You just don't have a program. You're hopping from one workout to another. This will not take you far, and I'm talking from personal experience. One of the biggest reasons why the vast majority of people never make it to a more intermediate level is because they don't understand that this or that perfect workout requires a form of progression. The perfect label is just a marketing strategy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the YouTube game and I get it. But if fitness influencers were to title their videos more accurately with something like "How to apply progressive overload to this chest workout for the next 6 weeks," you probably would have never clicked on that video in the first place. And that's exactly what I set out to do in this video. If you want to build muscle mass and look like you actually lift as a natural athlete, you need to get stronger across multiple intensity ranges. The word stronger implies the progress of going from an initial amount of strength to a higher amount at a later point. So unless you apply objective and quantifiable methods to make your training harder over time, you won't get stronger. Getting stronger only happens when your body is forced to adapt to an ever-increasing level of physical stress. And unfortunately, a workout, irrespective of how good it might be, cannot accomplish this goal. Building muscle requires the time variable, and a workout is simply a one-off stimulus. So the only way for you to actually build muscle with your favorite YouTuber's workout is by making it harder over the course of X amount of time. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to go about it using the perfect chest workout at home by Fitness FAQs. I'll leave a link to the video as well as Daniel's channel down below. But why this workout? First, because I want to show you an example of what you need to do if you decide to copy someone else's workout. 2, because this routine requires no special equipment and you can do it at home, so no excuses whatsoever. And 3, because I love push-ups. What else can I say? Simple as that. Disclaimer. The methods I use to progressively overload the exercises I'll be demonstrating here are not the holy grail. Other tactics do exist. Progression comes in many shapes and forms. This 6-week chest workout is just one example on how to make a routine harder over time with minimal equipment. But first, let me introduce you to some terminology I'll be using throughout this video to define how hard to train in the context of a chest calisthenics workout. This is an effort level that could make sense to produce in pretty much all the sets of each exercise during your first week, especially if a movement is new and you've never done it before. When you leave 3 reps in reserve, you get to practice the technique of the movement without accumulating tons of fatigue. This way you can grease the groove, meaning that you're putting yourself in a safe environment for you to learn how to produce force efficiently across the distance your body has to travel. This level is a type of effort you can reach during your first week already. However, I recommend that you only use it for the last set of each exercise. A slight technique breakdown is likely to happen, but the most obvious feature here is the slowing down of the reps. Broadly speaking, you would want a good chunk of your sets to be RIR 2 for the first half of this 6-week period. This is an effort level you should be toying with around halfway through this 6-week block. It'd be advisable to gradually increase the number of sets where you leave only 1 rep in the tank as you approach the final weeks. Technique breakdown becomes more apparent here, and the speed at which you move takes a major nosedive. You might even have to grind through a rep to overcome a sticking point. As a general rule of thumb, you would want a good deal of your sets to be 1 rep away from concentric failure in the second half of this workout progression.
There's usually something to be learned when I fail, and I think we should all what can we learn from the past about how we can do better in the future. And you mentioned there's a really good lesson. We were not as resilient as we were.
This is an effort level you should be reaching more consistently in the last phase of the mesocycle. Technique breakdown becomes very obvious and you find yourself grinding through very slow repetitions towards the end of a set. Here you know for sure that you will fail to complete the next repetition. Generally speaking, you'd want to reach this point at least in the last set of each exercise. If you are a little bit more experienced with resistance training, you might want to expose yourself to this effort level more than once in a given movement within the same workout. This is an effort level where, gun to your head, you cannot complete the next repetition. Total muscular failure typically happens in 2 different ways. 1, either after you spend a few seconds in the sticking point of the exercise without moving and then you collapse. Or 2, the accumulated fatigue is so overwhelming that you collapse the second you reach the sticking point. Concentric failure is not necessary to maximize muscle growth, but being able to identify it is key for you to gauge how close you are to this point. Proximity to concentric failure is the best environment for you to maximize hypertrophy. There are some methods that will allow you to keep working after reaching concentric failure, like half reps or eccentrics. But these should only be used very sparingly. Accumulating work at this level does not have a good stimulus to fatigue ratio for the most part, and thus this is something beginners should avoid altogether. Intermediate lifters could benefit from it if they use it strategically at the very end of a workout, only with safe movements or single joint exercises. Working beyond concentric failure is a technique that should only be deployed by advanced trainees in 90+% of the cases. Now that you're more familiar with all these fancy words, let's have a look at how to make this workout harder over the course of 6 weeks. Sit down, relax, and enjoy it. Let's say that you give this workout a try. You follow Daniel's guidelines on each exercise and you produce a performance that looks something like this. You managed to complete 130 total repetitions in the first week, 30 on the archer push-up, 25 wide decline push-ups, 40 reps in the deficit push-up, and 35 in the incline diamond push-up. Terrific! Please pay attention that I'm using an Excel sheet here, as this is key for me to track things. As far as I know, this is one of the best ways to know for sure whether you're making progress or not in your training. Whenever you start a training program that you're going to progress over the course of a few weeks or even months, it's okay to hold back a little in the first week. I'm not suggesting that you blatantly half-ass your training. I'm talking about leaving some energy left in the tank during big barbell compound lifts, especially if these are new to you. Step it up a notch if you're doing body weight exercises. The latter is a lot safer because there is no risk of getting crushed by a heavy load, and basic body weight movements tend to have a better stimulus to fatigue ratio. Think of the first week as an opportunity for you to get to know the dynamics of the program, get familiar with the exercises, and prioritize the quality of your technique instead of going balls to the wall every single set. Think about it. If you were to go all out already in the first week, lightweight baby type of mindset. How realistic would it be for you to improve on your performance for the next 8 to 10 weeks or even longer? Find that sweet spot where you make the first week hard enough, but not to the point where you start the second week thinking, geez, how in the world am I gonna work harder if I'm still wrecked from the previous week? Remember that for a training program to be a success, you also have to make it sustainable over time. So if you rate the overall difficulty of the first week around 7 to 8 out of 10, I think that's a great starting point to build upon. Because you leave some room in week number 1, you might be able to progress all the sets of the workout in week 2. Simply by adding 1 extra rep in each side of the archer push-ups, I'm adding 6 extra repetitions. That's almost an 11% increase of work. I know that many of you are super excited to deploy all these cool methods you see big influencers use, like drop sets, rest pause, giant sets, etc. But the reality is that the boring add a few pounds or reps or sets to this or that exercise, it's all the shock your muscles need. Same overloading strategy for the second and third exercises. That means completing 2 extra reps in the wide grip decline push-ups. Difficult for sure, but still manageable. Owning every single one of the 30 repetitions I do in total. Controlled tempo on the way down combined with an explosive concentric. For the deficit push-up, however, I'm going to run into a wall in the 4th and last set. I failed to complete the prescribed 12 reps and only do 10 instead. No problem. I put my knees down to decrease the load and reach the target number nonetheless. As you can see, muscular fatigue is slowly creeping up. I'm 112 reps deep into the workout, so I don't expect to smash the incline diamond push-ups by any stretch of the imagination. My chest, triceps and shoulders are pretty fried, and any double-digit number of repetitions in this regression is a bit of a struggle already. My way to progress this final section is by beating the combined rep count of the 3 sets plus going beyond concentric failure in the last set of the workout. There's no reason for me to hold back at this point. This is the last set and this is a safe environment for me to do this. My goal here is to complete as many negative repetitions as I can for as long as I feel in control of the descent, the eccentric portion of the repetition. It's really up to you to decide whether this progressive overload method makes sense for you from a fatigue management perspective. If you finish this workout late in the evening and the next day you have another training session in the morning, you might want to hold your horses. Or if you are a beginner trainee and you're struggling already halfway through this routine, I wouldn't recommend going this far. The next time I do this workout, I'm progressing all the exercises except for the first one. Contrary to the train till you puke mentality that is so pervasive in the fitness world, you don't need to make every single part of your workout harder than last week to keep making gains. I'll discuss this topic more in depth at the end of this video, so stay tuned. For the wide decline push-ups, I'm leaving the rep target the same as the previous week, but I add an extra set, so instead of doing 3, I do 4. Pretty self-explanatory. I don't increase the effort level of each set, but rather the total tonnage of work. 10 more reps in this movement is a 20% work increase. Sets are hard, but I still feel like I'm leaving 1 to 2 reps in the tank. That's no problem, I'm still working relatively close to failure and progression has already been made. Now the third movement is kind of an interesting example because on paper it doesn't look like I'm applying a form of progressive overload. But if you go back to the notes, and this is why workout log is so important, you'd recall that I failed to reach 12 repetitions in the 4th set of deficit push-ups in week number 2. So for me to be able to complete this amount of work this time around is in fact a way of working harder than last time. On top of that, you also need to keep in mind that I'm going to attempt to do this amount of repetitions in a more fatigued state. By this point last week, I had completed 66 repetitions, But now I'm going to tackle the 4 sets of deficit push-ups after 76 repetitions. Fatigue accumulation is a factor you should definitely take into consideration during training. Being able to produce the same performance in a more fatigued state is indeed a way of progressive overload. And for the finisher part of the workout, I stick to the previous tactic. I try to beat the combined rep count of the 3 sets, plus I seek to do more negative repetitions. All the quality work has already been done, so if some reps get grindy and shaky at this point, it's okay, I don't care. The struggle makes some of these reps look ugly, I understand that, but now I'm all about going the extra mile. I finish all the sets with 1 eccentric rep, except for the last one, where I do as many negatives as my beaten down muscles can tolerate. Spending time in the uncomfortable, making sure physical disruption happens so that I force my body to adapt. In week number 4, I apply progressive overload to exercises 1, 2, and 4. This decision is based off my notes from the previous week where I noted that I barely completed the prescribed work in the deficit push-up. In the pursuit of building muscle, this type of situation is desirable, but to expect that you're going to be able to outperform this type of effort just a few days later could be a little bit unrealistic, especially if you're not a complete beginner. So I don't change anything about exercise number 3, and I focus entirely on making progress in the remaining movements. Adding an extra rep to archer push-ups is all I need to make this exercise extremely challenging for me personally. Keep in mind that the lower the rep range is, the more difficult it is to add more reps because the intensity of the exercise is already pretty high. 6 more repetitions amount to a 16% of extra work in comparison to last week. The end of each set gets pretty hard, as you can see, but this is the type of mechanical tension I'm looking for at the beginning of the workout. Going from 10 to 12 reps in the decline wide push-up finally challenges me to the point where I'm no longer sure whether I'll be able to complete the work. This increase requires for me to perform 8 extra reps in a more fatigued state. The last 2 to 3 reps of each set are really tough, but I grind it through. As I said before, even if the reps and sets are the same as last week in the deficit push-up, that doesn't mean that I'm not applying a form of progressive overload. I'm about to complete the same work in a more fatigued state. At this point last week, I had already completed 76 repetitions. Now I set out to produce the same performance after having accumulated 90 total repetitions. I'm glad I chose this more conservative route because, to be honest with you, I had a really hard time completing every set. Nothing has changed with regards to the incline diamond push-ups. Beating the combined rep count and doing more eccentric work is the goal once again. Sets are bound to look horrendous towards the end, and that's fine. This is the finisher, and as the term implies, it is meant to finish me. My goal is to leave no room for speculation on whether I could have done more. No chance. Rest in peace, motherfucker. Let me tell you something real quick. Something that I wish someone had told me earlier in my lifting career. If you can't relate to the feeling I'm about to describe, that's probably the reason why you're not making any progress in the gym. I am intimidated about the work ahead of me in week 5. I look at what I need to do to train harder than the week before and I'm like, damn, this is gonna be brutal. If you've never doubted your own physical capabilities to complete a given workout, I'm sorry to tell you, man, but you're probably not working hard enough to build muscle. The second movement in this workout is near failure type of hard as you see here. This is a new method to progress an exercise. I increase the range of motion. You see, one of the downsides of decline push-ups is that your head gets in the way, especially if you want to maintain a straight body. By placing my hands on 2 elevated surfaces, I'm going to increase the intensity of the exercise. Now I have to displace my body through a greater range of motion. Further horizontal abduction and shoulder extension is going to allow me to go deeper at the bottom, thus exposing my pectoralis to a greater stretch. Even if the displacement has only gone up by 2 or 3 inches, understand that this extra range is added in the most difficult part of the exercise from a mechanical standpoint, an angle where the body is at the most disadvantageous position to produce force. This extra range adds up when you complete multiple reps and sets in a given workout. Did you think for a second that I was done making deficit push-ups harder in this routine? Well, think again. This is the first time I introduce external load in this routine. Ugh, that's disgusting, you traitor! How dare you pollute the purity of calisthenics with something other than your own body weight! Shame on you, shame on you! Y'all dogmatic folks need to take the chill pill and relax. I'm placing the plate at the top of my back to ensure that the new center of gravity is close to where force is produced. The final result is turning a hard exercise into a very hard exercise. I see it all the time. People doing push-ups just for the sake of completing a task instead of doing it for the sake of redefining their limits in that task. The mental capacity to work through discomfort is the make or break factor for success in building muscle. This is an ability that has to be practiced as regularly as the ability to produce force against external objects. The physical aspect without the mental one will only take you so far. This is what proximity to failure is supposed to look like. As for the incline diamond push-ups, this is the first time I increase the number of sets. The goal remains the same though, beating the combined rep count and doing more negative reps. I'm not gonna lie to you, by this point the workout could take up to 60 minutes or longer, depending on how long you rest in between sets. For me personally, I'd rather rest a bit longer to make sure that I could give my very best in each set. These are very fatiguing given what I put myself through prior. Remember, finishers are meant to finish you. Exhaust all your energy before you call it a day. Keep pushing, regardless what the little voice in your head tells you. It's your job to put that voice down and conquer the exercise. If you've made it this far in the video, I can promise you that you have the right mentality to start getting the results that you want from your training. You already have the mental capacity and patience to sit through a 20+ minute video where you see a complete stranger repeat the same over and over again. Because in case you haven't noticed, there is an element of practice and repetition when it comes to hypertrophy training. There is nothing fancy about this style of training, and many can argue that this is kind of boring. But it works. Archer push-ups are the only movement that I haven't increased in terms of sets up to this point, but this is about to change. Now I need to do 56 reps before I move on to the next exercise. 14 more repetitions than the week before. This is a 33% increase in training volume. No joke. The incline wide push-up is where things start getting really nasty. I bowed fairly well in the first set and managed to hit 13 reps. I'm feeling a bit cocky going into the second set and I complete 14 reps in an all-out effort, RPE 10. In case you don't know, just doing one extra rep close to failure is very costly in terms of fatigue, and guess what? This is about to show in the following 2 sets where I fall 1 repetition shy from the goal. I've come to the edge of the cliff in the first 3 sets and I'm approaching the last one with a massive fatigue toll. Perhaps I could have tried to get 1 more repetition to reach concentric failure, but I'm only halfway through the workout, so I decided to play it safe. Weighted deficit push-ups are next on the menu, and those ain't easy. Now I have to reach a similar level of effort in the next movement despite not progressing on paper. However, you can imagine how freaking tired my entire upper body muscles must feel at this point in the workout, especially my chest. Against all the odds, I reached the target number of reps in every single set. The price for it, however, is redlining all over the place. Now primal sounds are recurrent at the end of each set. RPE 10 is what it takes for me to get through the 4 sets of weighted deficit push-ups in week number 6. And yes, you guessed it, now I have to beat the combined rep count and the total number of eccentric work. I literally grind through the last repetitions of each set, just struggling, shaking, making ugly faces, whatever it freaking takes. However, this time around, instead of extending the 4th set with negative reps like I've been doing prior, I'm gonna add a finisher within a finisher. I wrap up this 6-week chest workout with bench dips to pre-exhaust my triceps to then complete as many eccentric incline diamond push-ups as I can. I have 20 reps in mind, but I end up doing 21. I'm done. I don't want to do this for the rest of my freaking life. Good riddance. As I mentioned before, there is no need for you to progress every single exercise in a workout if you are following a well-defined and structured program. Don't get me wrong, some people might be able to do it, especially if they are still riding the newbie gains wave. But if you're working your way through a more intermediate level, this might not be realistic. Your muscles are not gonna be like, no muscle growth for you unless you add 1 or 2 repetitions to this or that exercise. It doesn't work like that. You only have to outperform the overall results of the previous week. That's it. Your muscles can't really distinguish between exercises. They only understand tension and the fatigue of that accumulated tension. In my case, adding 15 to 20 extra reps on average from session to session was a manageable rate at which to progress this workout. Sometimes you'll be in a position where you can do more in all exercises in a given workout, but other times you might have to be a little bit more strategic and pick your fights. Moving the goalpost a bit further each week is what really matters at the end of the day. Besides, this routine is only a small piece in the bigger puzzle of programming within a mesocycle. Alright peeps of the interweb, I really hope you found value in today's video. If you learned something new and you want to show me some appreciation, which is very welcome by the way, go ahead and smash the like button, consider subscribe, and don't forget to click on the bell to get notified every time a new video goes live. I gotta go eat. In the meantime, stay fit, stay strong, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more gains.